caster, and she's been saying that, yeah, this game mode is really hard. I feel like every series she's mentioned, oh, there was misplays here, misplays there, and I can say that from every team we've seen on stream so far, there has not been perfect play by any means, and that's shown through, and it kind of does just reinforce the fact that although on the surface level the game looks fairly simple, then it's not. There are very many mistakes that you can make because obviously you have to try and work out what your opponent's going to queue in their turn as well, and try and offset that as well as locking in what you want to get done in any given turn. So we are kicking off with Luna on top and Surrender on the bottom here. Surrender locking in that Shadow Samurai comp, which we've seen have mixed results. We've seen certain teams struggle to get wins with it. We've seen some really impressive play, at least for now, coming from Team APAC, not really seeming like it's been a huge problem for them to get wins. So we'll have to see how this goes out with this nature opening from Luna on the top, and of course the Shadow Samurai on both sides.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think of this opening? Samurai seems like a pretty, popular just opener, pretty much in any comp, right? But the Brucon Malfurion on the side of Luna with the nature opening versus Shadow.
Yeah, this has a pretty good benefit of the nature opening here for Luna, and the general idea is the Malfurion's normally the initial go-to threat straight away for your opponent to try and kill. Then they have to make the choice between your next hero. In this one, it looks like Luna, she's going for Cairn. They have to make the choice between that target Cairn we spoke about a lot last night, and then the Samurai and the Brucon too. So these are all difficult because, as we saw, Brucon can start stacking tons of damage. But of course, we mentioned the sheer importance of forcing down Cairn as well. So this is really where this comp gains its power, where both players have managed to get a turn 1 kill, which is great. But now it's what's the next target. We saw a lot of Cairn focus being super important to break up that Cairn Diablo combo, but then Brucon just gets to Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt, and then Chain Lightning comes out and can just one-shot the whole comp. I've seen it happen when I've been playing. If you leave Brucon alone, I've literally had my all 3 mercs on the board at one time get one shot in one Chain Lightning.
Got to build it up. Got to build it up. We saw a moment in the series that we watched yesterday in China versus APAC where Gio had 4 lightning bolt turns. I
think it was 4,
died before she was able to get the chain lightning off. So, little missed opportunity there. Also, for me specifically, because I just wanted to see just the raw damage come out. But going to this one.
Yeah, I do believe this, unfortunately, is going to be a... I don't want to say these words. We've said it too many times over the course of the past few days, but it looks like this has been a connection issue as we saw Luna disappear. I believe what's going to happen is they're going to try and do the regame, and the rules of how we do this with Mercenaries at the moment is that if there is a DC, obviously there's no reconnect feature right now, they are going to re-queue, and the openings have to be exactly the same. So the 3 Mercenaries that they started with, they have to start again, which isn't really too much of an issue because, as I mentioned yesterday, TJ, this Shadow Samurai comp doesn't really have any other openings they can realistically go for unless people are feeling really adventurous. And it's the same with what Team America's and Luna has. Like the comp, I think their comp is a little bit more flexible, but it doesn't matter anyway because they have to open the same.
Yep. And this is what we're kind of worried about, but hopefully, it seemed like things were going smoothly up until that point, right? So I'm hopeful that
up until we're going to turn 2.
Yeah, but it was like, fast and furious up to that point.
It was a smooth turn 1. I'll tell you that. That turn 1
it was smooth. It was like, it was like butter.
Yeah, freshly polished car, kind of sleek, that turn 1, but we will try and get a little bit further than turn 1 for you guys. And again, just want to throw it out there. We do appreciate everyone just sort of putting up with this. We're doing our best. I know the team, the production team and everything are doing their best to make it work. The players themselves are trying really hard, trying to come up with some answers to some of these problems and really do their best to play out these games, because obviously all of us want to try and make this work and make it happen to be as smooth as possible. So we're doing our best. We're going to stick with it and see how it works. And fingers crossed we can get some sort of solution, or the connection holds for long enough to play the match out. Because I know Luna has especially been doing every single thing possible to get these matches, done, get these connections fixed. Because all of these players, especially for Mercenaries, such a new mode, have been practicing really hard. Because to just learn a brand new mode in a relatively short space of time and playing such a major tournament is a big deal, right? That's a really big ask of any player.
Yeah, it certainly is. And like just kind of echoing what you said, just appreciate all of the people that have been trying to make everything work up until this point, because it hasn't been easy. We have the easy part. I could talk for days about any random subject.
We just have to say
Derek and I didn't even get to finish our Dead Mines review yesterday, so I could continue that all day long if I wanted to. Or we could do a Mercenaries review, Raven, even though there wasn't that many new Mercenaries added. What do you think of Cookie?
The one character I think we covered at great length in mere hours ago, TJ.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because it felt like such a short time ago.
Yeah. We're still in the review. We didn't actually end up giving it an amount of stars.
How
many stars are we rating these by?
Out of 6. That's a standard scale, right? 6 stars.
It's out of 6.5 stars. Let's go.
Okay, yeah, 6.5. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for the correction. But yeah, I don't think there's that much crossover from 8 hours ago when we were broadcasting.
It does feel like we just took a long break and now we're back in the same stream again, which is kind of true actually. So, just to at least answer you a bit of a silly question, Cookie is the one. If you guys want some free advice and you've not really been catching up with Mercs too often this recently, then Cookie is the one pirate to really level right now, one of the new Mercenaries that comes out. If you want to sort of hard focus on one character, you'll see Cookie a lot on ladder. That plus health is a huge deal. And just, it's really weird because it's one of the first characters I would say where it's more important as a bench mercenary than it is as an actual mercenary to play on board at any given time, because of that plus health being such a nice bonus. But on board, it's definitely one of those support mercenaries with the fish it can summon and just the fast speed damage. It really does feel like a true support mercenary, and maybe we see more of that in the future as well. Just mercenaries that give these bonuses and have these like really heavy support style skills.
Yeah, I mean the possibilities are wide open for the future of the format, right? Even just right now, or even before the new Mercenaries were added recently, the metagame was evolving very quickly.
Oh yeah,
and just like I don't know if this is ever going to happen, right? Because getting into balanced conversations with Mercenaries is tough because there are so many different combinations, and because it is kind of difficult to grind out the Mercenaries when they do come out in general, right? I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe buffs, who knows? But in a way, that's a nerf.
Yeah, that's true. I think
slippery slope.
Yeah, like oof. What would you do, TJ? Right, tell me right now. Like, what would your next Mercenaries content patch be? Like, what are you looking for? Are you just looking for more additional cookie skins?
Murlocs.
Yeah,
more
there
Murlocs. Maybe some mutinous buffs, like buffs to some of mutinous's
instead of
equipment.
Instead of eat a friendly Murloc and gain its stats, would you just have eat an opponent's mercenary and gain their stats and just have it that simple? You just use the ability, right? Your mercenary's dead. I've got all the stats now done. Eat an Anduin.
What about eat a Murloc and gain its stats? So that if your opponent's playing Murlocs, you directly counter each other.
But the problem with that is no one plays Murlocs, so it would be useless.
I mean, it could. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
It's like go like a crawler without any beasts in the format. It's like what this is.
I got stuck on the I don't remember which task it was. The second Devour task for Mutinous.
I've not leveled it, so you'll have to tell me what that task is.
You have to gain an absurd amount of attack from Devour, and that's the task. And it's so annoying because like you can't always have like a summoned Murloc on board, so it's, like sometimes you're just eating your own mercs. It's I don't know, it's ridiculous.
I'm sure someone somewhere though has got like the ultimate strat for that one specific task, because you see them pop up all the time, right? It's like, oh, a guide to get this this specific like awkward task done. Then normally the later task, like past task 12 or whatever, and it's like, okay, you want exactly this comp, you need to hit exactly these team buffs, and then you can do it in one turn. I think the hardest ones I struggled with was like the summon X amount of these summons, you know, like just summon this thing 10 times or do this, because it just takes long with cooldowns and then everything else. So anyway, we've blabbed on enough about absolutely nothing. So let's dive straight into what is hopefully going to be at least a smooth turn 1, TJ. Sleek.
Yeah, I think these perspectives are backwards, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe so.
Surrender
I think
had the shadow opening, unless
correct.
It was actually Luna the whole time that had the shadow opening.
Someone has shadow and someone has nature. That's all we need to know.
Yeah. Yeah,
we'll find out together,
box.
TJ. We're all on this journey together.
The small box is the same as the big box. Zoom! Enhance!
What is this? A spectate for ants?
Okay, there we go. The small box is a bonus feature for anybody who likes to watch on something much smaller.
Yeah.
All right. Enough joking around, Raven. I'm sick of it.
No, you're not. You are never sick of it. I will say, though, right now we are almost certainly going to see the same sort of turn 1 kills from each player. Vol'jin will go down and Malfurion will go down. Obviously, these turns happen very quickly, so it's I'm not 100% sure on whether ordering or speed timing makes too much of a difference here, because these abilities do go off. That might be a big deal, though, the Brakan sort of contesting, but no, the damage with the blade is just too much. So yeah, we are okay. We're back, TJ. Pretend the last 5 minutes didn't happen. We're all good.
This is like the same exact.
We're going to get an achievement unlocked if we actually have a smooth turn 2.
I'm ready.
And by 2022, this match will have finished. We'll just keep restarting. Remember every single turn.
That soon?
So last round, it looked like right before the DC, both players were going for Cairn as their next one in. We'll see if it happens again.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting back to what I was talking about earlier, right? The targeting here from Luna, I am very interested in, because naturally, you want to burst down Cairn. And I think Surrender's comp has the ability to do so and kind of ignore Samuro, although Samuro will be dealing a good amount of damage. I think it's less of a big deal if, say, Samuro gets to one-shot Celine this turn, whereas... Wait, the perspectives changed again. Did they? No, they didn't. Never mind. I'm confused.
No, it's just the boards look so similar.
Yeah, I'm staring at it.
Similar health totals, Cairn in the middle, and then...
We're 10 minutes in, I'm looping.
The caster.
But most importantly is whether the targeting actually goes down to Cairn or Brakan here is what I'm really going to look at. Cairn feels like the right target, but it's interesting as well that Luna actually had to go for that muddy footing. And what that was for was to guarantee Samuro getting its attack effect off, because Malfurion could have died beforehand, which we did see. But it does mean that this spell damage isn't being stacked as quickly as possible from Luna.
Yeah. But given the strategies we've seen, it doesn't seem like Brukon's going to be a target for a little bit, so...
Kind of interesting as well. just to see the difference here, because you can see that the health of the same minions, or some mercenaries, sorry, on either side of the board at max is different. That is because of the cookie on Luna's side. And it's interesting to see if that makes a difference when so many of these mercenaries are the same. Like, you know, is that extra health going to keep Samuro alive to get another attack off, keep Ken from being reincarnated and losing his ability this turn? Because now, from Surrender's side, Ken on 1 health and slowed, it is extremely unlikely that he'll be able to get something off here if any of the other mercenaries got anything quicker. So I think the Samuro here for Luna could go for the images, which would be a speed tie with Endurance Aura that you can see basically on both screens now. The mirror images from Luna on the left, and then the Endurance Aura. If Surrender loses that tie, then it does mean that Ken will die and then just pass the turn effectively. And what's interesting here is there's a chance that Surrender could kind of cushion himself against that and go for the mirror images on the opponent's Samuro as well, which means there are 2 speed ties for Surrender at 6 speed to try and go for that to stop Luna's Samuro actually killing Ken.
Until the last possible second. Okay. Still though.
Okay. Well, Surrender got it off.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
And with the heal as well, that's huge because now, okay, it's going to be Chain Lightning, right? So this is nice there. Ken does go down, the reincarnation comes out, but really nice setup and placement there. And that turn went very well for Surrender because not only did he obviously get the Samuro kill before Luna's Samuro could do anything, the mirror image spawns on the right, which means the Chain Lightning killed the mirror image and didn't do any damage to Surrender's Samuro. So a 2260 Samuro at this point in the game is going to be pretty nice, because it must feel like, although Luna could go for Cookie right now, that Cookie will get obliterated if Surrender wants it to, although of course Ken does have Taunt right now, so it's a pretty big deal. I do wonder if there's any setup from Surrender, if he can actually kill the rest of this Ken off and then go into, say, Brukan with Samuro and just delete 2 more mercenaries this turn. I think that would be the goal number 1 here.
Yeah, but with that last turn, it seems like Surrender has pulled ahead overall, and Diablo's going to hit the board now, which, you know, does get, what, a turn with Karen. We'll see what Karen's going to be able to accomplish. It does have the taunt now, and it still has a second Karen available.
Yeah, the thing that Surrender and Luna, of course, have to consider is the Ken's Diablo combo cannot happen this turn because Luna only just did Endurance Aura, so it was going to be on cooldown. This is going to be a stomp turn from Luna. And if that's the case, then okay, what's Diablo doing? And what is the best way to then ensure that Luna will be able to get off the Ken Diablo combo next turn? Because if Luna can actually kill Ken, it would stop Surrender stomping this turn, potentially. You know, kill him before he stomps, of course. And if that stomp stops, it means that Luna is almost certain to be able to get that Endurance Aura and the AoE. Yeah, Surrender's just going to delete the Ken as well. This is really nice. He got to skip the stomp, so again, it means that Surrender's side now isn't slowed because the Reincarnate was procced. Now Surrender's got to decide what this follow-up's going to be. The Ragnaros is the general answer to a Diablo, but the problem is there's still that Brukan, so unless Surrender can guarantee a kill on Brukan this turn, or maybe Diablo if he wants to go that way, this Ragnaros is fairly weak right now.
Well,
I think it might still have to be Ragnaros, you know. Unless there's one other option, actually, where Surrender goes Diablo, focuses on every other mercenary, including Cookie, leaves Luna's Diablo up, and then has Rag in the sort of back pocket to then try and finish the game like in a potential 1v1 outcome with Ragnaros versus
just
Diablo.
against Diablo.
Yeah. Because double green now is huge, right? Like, Luna's Cairn is just dead. That's just going to happen. And then they can just absolutely obliterate Brukan. And then Cookie comes out, and you would imagine the combination of Diablo and whatever's left from Samuro means that they can just delete Cookie as well, no problem. And then Surrender will have that Rag as a backup. I do wonder if Surrender could go for heal maybe on Samuro this turn.
That Samuro's been around for a long time already. In the opening board, still relatively healthy, but could be taken down reasonably quickly. But yeah, I do think the Diablo is probably the least threatening thing on the board right now. Obviously, it's incredibly healthy, but I liked what you said about focusing down the others, kind of ignoring the Diablo for now, and that makes sense to just kind of play Diablo by itself.
Yeah, just because of the fact that you just expect Rag to win that fight, right? And honestly, I would expect it to not even necessarily at least start as a 1v1 with Rag versus Diablo. The way I'm guessing this game's going to play out here is that Surrender might well have 2 minions versus Diablo. Oh, wow. Natalie living on 1.
That's the second time so far in this game that a Merc has lived on 1, and last time it was a big deal because it was the Cairn, right, that survived on 1 and then was able to live a complete another turn.
Yeah. Surrender did get the AoE damage off last turn. I was surprised that he didn't go for the heal on Samuro though, because I think if he landed a heal on Samuro, like, look at this board. Right, is Samuro really going to die without tons of effort? And then if he does, then the Diablo's ignored. Say the Celine dies, well then Surrender's Diablo is getting buffed. I'm 99% sure. Yeah, of course, like Diablo for both players do have Soulstone. There is differences in lineups where Diablo in certain builds that these players are bringing doesn't have Soulstone. So just going to keep an eye out for that. But in this one, yeah, he does. You can see the buff there for Luna as well.
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier. There's like, what, 2 very specific builds that run the claws?
Yeah, it's normally the Diablo opening, right, that runs claws instead of Soulstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does look like Surrender's just okay with focusing everything else down. This looks like this always happens, right? Because that 2-speed, like I said, that's the one great thing. Cookie's not the best fighting mercenary in the world, but a 2-speed attack, you can never really write off, right? Like, 2-speed just almost always gets to just pump some damage in.
Yeah, and, you know, since it's kind of that bench hero, right? And it can come in these situations, and sometimes the low damage 2-speed ability can just pick something off and get your mercs to be a little bit healthier. Right. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful mercenary.
This is a ridiculous combo though, right? So basically, I didn't catch exactly where the aim went, but I'm going to guess that it went over to it depends what he wants to do, but I think that Surrender will have used the sort of the mark on Cookie, and then the Meteor goes down, and then Meteor just deals double damage to both characters. Because the mark from Diablo, any attacks after that just always do the double damage.
Yeah. Well, because I see what you're saying.
I think he is just still focusing down Cookie, which is pretty nice. He does get to kill, right? So the mark deals, what, like 24? And then the Meteor afterwards will just absolutely obliterate Cookie.
Does the mark itself benefit from the critical damage?
I want to say yes. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
At this sleep-deprived state, even though I play Diablo in pretty much every comp, I feel like it always does 24 when I see it, so yeah, it should do.
Yeah, if it's consistent damage, then yes, that would make sense.
But yeah, that's a nice play. And again, I think it would have been for I guess a lesser player, it's always tempting to say, well, how the heck did Surrender not aim the main part of Meteor at Diablo, right? Like, surely Diablo's the scary one, but here Surrender's just showing that it's just good knowledge of how the game realistically plays out, where now, yes, there's 123 health Diablo on Luna's side, but because it's only one Mercenary, Luna gets one attack per turn, whereas Surrender gets two. And you can see very quickly, well now, well, two of Surrender's minions have this more or less the same health as one. The one Luna has left over. So yeah, we can see the concede now, and there are two big things about this game I want to point out. One, Surrender's just strong understanding and kind of control of the matchup. Also, it helps that he did win the tie, of course, on that turn with Ken, getting the Endurance Aura, and then he really popped off, getting those couple of kills before Luna's Mercenaries could react. The second thing was, that was a whole game of Mercenaries on stream without a disconnect. That just makes me feel good, TJ.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, you can put it that way, sure. I mean, that was a regame in itself, but, you know...
But it was one single
happy
regame.
That it completed. Yeah, it was one single regame. Quick disconnect. It happened early on, right? So we didn't have to get, you know, a crazy ruling one way or another, and you know, argue it out back and forth. Just same openings once again, and we got same outcomes essentially, right? It was almost a mirrored board state from what we saw in the game one that was remade. So I'm happy. And
that's the thing you see a lot with Mercenaries as well. And something where I think a lot of the potential misconceptions about how straightforward the mode looks is that a lot of turn ones, especially against popular comps, right? If you have two of these comps that you see all the time, that the turn ones almost get solved because people will find out what the most optimal just initial opening is, because so many of the Mercenaries, and the majority of the Mercenaries actually only have one attack they can do on turn one of the game. That initial turn does kind of get solved, but every single thing after that is just up in the air, right? Because way more abilities become active, choices of what mercenary to bring off the bench changes as well. So although that turn one looks like, no, it's just the same thing again and again, yes, but then every single turn changes, so it can get a little bit wild.
Yeah, it's not as simple as, all right, use your only ability on turn one and then use your cooldown as soon as it's up, right? It can be a lot more complicated than that, where sometimes you just need to keep holding on to that cooldown to a point where you know you're going to be able to get an advantage over your opponent. So I've come to appreciate the depth over the past 3 days watching these play out.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons, for example, when we started to see more of Brukan in openings that aren't necessarily full nature openings, because Brukan is one of the mercenaries that has two attacks available, and they do very different things, right? It's almost like a sort of druid ramp style attack, with lightning bolt obviously ramping that spell damage up and up over time, but it's slow. But Brukan also has that 4-speed muddy footing, which slows the opponent's next attack as well, and that can really wreak havoc, especially in opening turns. So that's why you might see characters like Brukan, and not just in the straight up. For example, you know, we wind back a week or so, it was always, or even maybe before that now, it was always like Malfurion, Guff, Brukan as an opening, just because it's, hey, 3 nature things that all heal and buff each other, seems great. But now we've even seen players at very high ranks have, say, for example, Ken, Diablo, Brukan as the backline, just because the characters are flexible and because of so many players running double red backline. Brukan can come straight off the bench and potentially just pop off with a Chain Lightning straight away, because the cooldowns, of course, tick over even when the characters are on the bench.
Yeah, and being able to have that kind of hybrid of like support abilities and actual, you know, combat abilities seems to be working quite well. You mentioned the flexibility. All right, here we go. Next lineup for Team Americas.
Yeah, this is just the nature comp once again, right? It's the same lineup, whereas of course this is Conquest in Mercenaries, and if you're familiar with the format, it's basically these players have submitted 4 separate lineups. There are some rules within those lineups of you're not able to just duplicate the Mercenaries in the same lineup every single time, which is why we see lineups without Diablo and Ken, for example. But we do get to see, if these players win with a deck like we just saw happen just then with Surrender, then they cannot play it because they've already won with it, and the goal is to win with the 3 decks you have available there. So we are going to see that. I believe that was another nature lineup from Team APAC there, so we might see one of these slightly more prolonged games because of the more widespread healing involved, and it's not necessary that we're going to see a turn 1 kill like we saw in those like big Samuro openings there. But it could be a chance because there are some players still running it.
That's so I just realized, this is completely off topic, that is a behind the Asia Pacific logo, that's a tusk of a mammoth.
Yeah.
In the constructed portrait, since there's 3 players, the 3rd player looks like they're holding the tusk. I think it's Glory.
Oh, okay. At first, I
thought it was some sort of horn, like a battle horn, like a really thin battle horn,
like what Malfurion's got, right? In this portrait.
Yeah, and now my mind has been blown because there's only 2 players in the Asia Pacific. I'm surprised I didn't notice this last night. Sorry. Crazy. Just nuts.
It's just wild.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, each team is the sort of logo is one of the years, right? So there's Griffin, Mammoth, Dragon, and another one that I can't remember off the top of my head because there's Mercenaries to talk about. But yeah, we are going to see those mirrored openings here. The Samuro still involved, but I think this is a little bit harder to get the kill. This is a huge open here for Luna though, because she managed to get that Rakan slow on the Malfurion. Gia also got the same thing here, so the Malfurion is going to be weakened on both sides. But again, because this isn't a comp that is that likely to kill on turn 1, because it's just not as aggressive as the Shadow Samuro opening because of the speed differences, there's still both players having all their minions alive because of the nature of just those heals.
Yeah, well, mirrored starts, mirrored openings, essentially. The only difference is 6 health on Malfurion. Everything else is exactly the same.
Yeah, and this is... Yeah, this is where the mind games begin, right? And this is where everyone... Oh, it's down to coin flips. Not necessarily, right? Because Gia, well, both players, obviously, have the option to try and root Samuro to stop Samuro doing either the... mirror image or just another attack again. The Brukan gets to speed tie Muddy Footing with their opponent's Malfurion anyway, because they're both speed 1. So that's an option. You can Muddy Foot in 1. But if you think your opponent is also going to try and root, then the Brukan might want to Muddy Foot in the Brukan to stop that going off quickly. But the problem with this plan is you suddenly aim in 3 abilities at 3 different targets, and this comp has AoE healing every turn, so then that isn't going to work. So you really have to just break this down into what's going on here. The Muddy Footing is going to go on the Malfurion. I imagine G is going to respond in kind. Yeah, the AoEs from both players because they expected the roots from both players as well. There you go, see? And what's really interesting there is if this was the plan, then should one of them, or maybe both of them, just gone for the Wrath anyway, right? Because if you're expecting your opponent to have the knowledge that you are supposed to root that turn, they're gonna do the Whirlwind and become immune. So just don't root. Just Wrath one instead. And then, because the problem now is both players, obviously Luna has lost Malfurion now anyway, but both players don't have the nature speed increase this turn because Roots was used and not the Wrath. So I think there's always just openings there to, if you respect your opponent, to know that Root is just generally the best play, then you should respect them enough to know that the Whirlwind is the play as well. So just go for Wrath and get the speed.
But then, if you respect them enough, you should also know that you can counter whatever they're going to do.
Because that's true, but neither of them did.
While you have to I know. While you have to respect your opponent, you also have to try and beat them. Like, sure, you know, you can have a handshake agreement all day long, right?
I think
Woe and Wrath, shake on it. Like,
just come to someone before the match. I think you are good at this game. Just walk away and you're like, do they really think that though? And then you get into the mind games of that discussion. Ugh, it's too much, TJ. Do you see, of course, Luna following up with Cookie, and the it's not a huge deal here, especially because Gia didn't go for the speed increase with Wrath last turn. It means that Cookie should be able to snipe, the Malfurion right now and gain the 10 health. And this is this is where, again, the game's kind of interesting, right? Because now, although Luna looks like she's always like one mercenary behind, as you can clearly see in the choice now, Luna has an option of 2 mercenaries, she has the option of 3. The Cookie did get that killing blow, which gives the Samuro gives the mercenaries extra 10 health. So that means something, right? Like, Luna's Samuro has 93 health. That is kind of ridiculous. And Gia's only has 66. So although Gia is ahead technically on number of mercenaries, this Brukan has 16 health and is very likely to die and not really achieve much for the rest of the game. Whereas the health gain on the Samuro, that is important. It means that Samuro can still tank a ton of damage and still dole out a ton of damage as well.
Yeah, so it's not really as big of an advantage as it may seem on the surface.
Right.
Just try and cash in on a Chain Lightning before Brukan bites the dust.
Yeah, I was wondering whether she was ever looking at Muddy Footing as well. So Cairn has gone for basically the speed tie versus... so there's... how many abilities now? There's going to be all 4 abilities, I imagine, locked in with the... at 3 speed, with both Cairns and both Samuros going for 3 speed moves. But there is a chance that Luna could kind of like break this. It looks like she is, actually. Luna could break this up and go for Stomp this turn, and kind of let Gia like waste the Endurance Aura if she goes for it.
Yeah.
Because she'll want the Endurance Aura so Brukan can go Chain Lightning. But then Luna stomps. If Chain Lightning kills something, Luna gets to stomp this turn, and then she brings in Diablo, right? And then can go for that her own Endurance Aura and Diablo. Luna there, but I think a bit of a shake of the head. Because she basically didn't get the mirror images summoned before the Chain Lightning came down, I believe. So the Chain Lightning did like maximum damage to her own mercenaries and not the copies.
Yeah, which kind of negates a little bit of that health advantage,
right?
That the Cookie was able to provide. And Brukan lives.
Again, though, it doesn't matter that Brukan lives, weirdly enough, because now Cookie gets to 2 speed again, right? Yeah. Which means that that's just plus 10. It's plus 10 health, right, on all these mercenaries. So it's another health buff. The problem is, because nothing died, or none of the other mercenaries died for Luna, can Stomp. Yes, it slowed Gia's turn down a lot this time. But how do you cash in on that? The 3 mercenaries from Luna are so fast anyway, with 2 speed naturally from Cookie. 4 speed is fine from Samuro as well. So I doubt this is going to be an Endurance Aura turn from Luna, but then she has the 6 speed just like normal attack from Cairn. which is pretty weak considering it's Gia's Cairn that's already taunted up. So it's kind of a weird stay. Weirdly enough, I think like Luna would have wanted something to die this turn, so it looks like she's going to go for the summon from Cookie instead of the 2-speed kill for the extra 10 health. But now it does look like the follow-up's been really strong for Gia, right? Because although she lost the Brakan, which I think she's fine with, there's obviously a fish on the board, which she's not a fan of, but in general, she's done the plan, right? She stomps into the turn to then set up the Diablo coming off the bench into the Endurance Aura, Diablo AoE, and also Samuro to help finish anything off, I imagine. Again, I don't know if I'm right state of mind to do the quick maths, but generally what I would imagine she'd be looking at is maybe even pushing the mirror images into the Cairn. It looks like she's going to aim it at Cookie, but I did wonder with if she cues it in a way where it's Cairn 3-speed Endurance Aura, then the Diablo AoE, the Cairn dies, reincarnates, so it doesn't use an ability anyway, and then maybe the Samuro could go into the Cairn to actually just remove Cairn from the game.
But it was targeted at Cookie.
Yeah.
Looks like Gia or no, left perspective still working through the turn.
Yeah, it's a tough one because Luna looked like she'd set up really well, but just the way the turn played out last turn, it just really put her on the back foot. Because look, like this Cairn does nothing. It's funny that you can attack with 0 attack minions in this game, and they do die. They do attack and die, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah. The fish died off, and now look at the damage that's been done. Right, it doesn't look too bad at all. The Cookie is minimal impact at this point, I would say, although Luna could potentially summon a fish. But the problem is, and the big difference here as well is, summoning the fish that Luna did previously, I think it was on Gia's side, right, doesn't look so great anymore because Gia has Diablo on board, and that's just more and more and more health above your opponent's Diablo. Be interested to see if Gia considers the Doom charge to try and set up a slow next turn on one of these mercenaries. Because again, it's something, I know I've talked about it before, but it's something that wasn't obvious, I think, when everyone started playing the game. Everyone looked at what's the max damage I can do every single turn, right? Like, you know, what's the highest number I can hit? How many mercenaries can I kill? Whereas the game has evolved into a much more setup-based game. Like, you have these turns, and not just for this comp, but for many different comps, where you might have a turn that looks weak. It's not really done much damage. It's not really had a huge impact on the board. But what it does is set up a incredible follow-up, and the follow-ups can wipe whole boards, or at least 2 mercenaries at any given time. That's 2 gone.
It's always 24. It's always crit. And that'll be a 2-0 lead for Asia Pacific. Getting the better of America, who sort of desperately needs the points at this stage, right?
Yeah.
The only team with 5 points in the overall standings. You know, obviously some ground to be made up elsewhere, and series still isn't over. The double series still isn't over by any means, so still some time to come back. But it seems like we've seen a great deal of sweeps in Mercenaries thus far over the course of the 3 days.
Yeah, it's something I didn't expect as well, because it's Conquest. I think if we were playing LHS in Mercenaries, sweeps could well happen, because one, you could get a bit of a bad matchup, lose that, and then as we saw yesterday, that nothing's set in stone. There is no comp that 100% wins against another comp, as we saw some cool games going on last night. So if that's a loss, then you've almost got no chance, right? The likelihood of just sweeping at that point is very high. So we would see it if it was LHS, but I am surprised we've been seeing sweeps in Conquest, just because the lineups differ enough that it's not like, oh, well, if I queue this into this, I just lose. Like, we've seen mirror matches go one way. We've seen hard matchups be won by what you would imagine would be the losing deck. So, yeah, pretty interesting. But I do agree, Americas do need to try and put some additional points on the table, because they might find themselves after today just slipping a little bit. But there is the last round of Battlegrounds today, right, as well. So who knows? Like, Americas could probably just guarantee gain another 2 points minimum from Battlegrounds. But I do think that would then still mean it would rely on, you know, the constructed team or the Mercenaries team getting something done at least to feel any form of safety.
Yeah. All right, well, looking at the lineup deck, whatever you want to call it, that Asia Pacific has left remaining, I believe it's the Varden, Rag, Tavish composition. I don't think that one was banned. I think the Anduin, Mukla, Sylvanas.
Yeah, I think
was
both
banned away.
I think both teams banned the Anduin comp here that we saw from yesterday, which is funny enough, right? Because yesterday we saw Team APAC not ban the Anduin comp, which is interesting because a lot of these comps, especially after resubmission, are very similar. Let me have a quick look. So wait, whose comp were you talking about?
Yeah, Asia Pacific, the only comp that they have left remaining.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and this was a surprising one, right? Like, this is one of the slightly older comps with that sort of fire and ice style. And but we did see, I think it was Surrender played it yesterday in the first match and made it work and looked pretty dangerous on it as well. There was a lot of damage being stacked up. Varden, of course, adding that extra slow. And this is one of those comps where you do get a flexible open, right? You don't have to start, like in the Shadow Samuro, you pretty much always have to start with the Shadow Samuro opening. Whereas here, there's a difference between the Diablo, Ken, and then X, normally Varden opening, or the Varden, Jaina, Tavish opening as well. So there is some flexible choices here from these players. And we can take a quick look at Diablo, of course, one of the true terrors of the meta, mainly with the help from his best mate Ken. But we do see something I do want to draw attention to is just the Black Soulstone being the main general use equipment there, with that plus 10 health after a character dies. And a character does not have to be an actual mercenary. It can be a summoned minion, a copied minion, say Samuro's mirror images, and it all starts to stack up. So when Diablo is on the board, you do have to be aware of, if you're playing characters that can summon additional minions, not to just summon them for no value, because all they'll end up doing is buffing your opponent's Diablo. But we are seeing players jump on that Claws of Terror, which is super interesting in one or two of these comps, which is an extra 5 damage, or 5 attack, should I say. So it'll be a 16 or I think 17 with the full buff, if the Mercs are maxed, which these are. And also an extra amount of slow on the Doom charge, which is pretty nice, but I think mainly this is for those turn 1 plays where you do want to start with Ken, Diablo, X as openers, normally Varden. And this just allows you to just hit that little bit harder on that turn 1, as well as basically giving you all the time in the world, because whatever you hit, that next ability going so late means that it might be able to let you open up at some kind of kill.
Yeah. But in very specific comp, whereas you otherwise, like you mentioned, have the Diablo and Karen there on the bench, they can come in and then get the Aura plus the Stomp out there. So that's the first time I've seen that little graphic. Oh, another one, Blade Master Samuro highlight feature. There we go. And Samuro has been in, I mean, outside of the rules stopping you from playing Samuro in every single one of your compositions, has seemed to be in most, in all the ones that you could fit him in, and is in the vast majority of openers as well on top of that. So we've seen mostly the Burning Blade as far as equipment goes, but some of the Sash of Illusion in very specific comps. 0 Honed Blades, a big old goose egg.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? Like, Whirling Blade is decent. It's a good ability. Sometimes it's good to just pick off 2 Mercenaries, but the main use really is if you're going to get rooted, like we saw in the previous couple of games, or if Samro's being targeted and you just want your opponents to just kind of burn abilities or misuse abilities, because if you target Samro with a spell or attack, and he gets to Whirling Blade first, he goes immune, and then your spells change direction, basically, and pick a random other target. And that could be bad, right? Like, you can hit a target you don't want to. If it's a sort of melee attack, you could, instead of hitting Samuro, you could face tank something with high attack, or something you don't really want to. So there's loads of weird things that can happen, but the damage itself is not what you're looking for. 4 extra damage on a 10 damage attack doesn't quite equal the sheer raw damage Burning Blade gives you, or the sort of the flexible choice of Sash of Illusion. But yeah, you are right. Sash mainly being used in comps, at least in this tournament, that have the Sylvanas in there as a backline finisher. Because just as I mentioned, these summons affect Diablo's Soulstone, being able to gain health. Perfect, thank you, lovely producer. Just as much as the summons affect the Soulstone, they also affect this Reclaim Souls. Gain 5 attack for each friendly character that's died this game. It says character, not mercenary. So basically, any summons that happen all add together. So if you've managed to mirror image with a Sash on Samuro a couple of times in the game, that's like an extra, what, 20 damage if you just do it twice? Never mind, sometimes you get to do it more. So it's so much extra attack. And of course, the Sylvanas combined with Death Volley, which is the main, and I'll be honest, I saw some players early on use Soul Jar on Sylvanas, but it's just not as good. Don't do that. It's nowhere near as strong as Death Volley. But with this Death Volley, the general idea with Sylvanas, of course, is get her on board towards the end of the game, click Reclaim Souls. She can go upwards of 50 plus attack, no problem. And then Death Volley, she gets to auto attack with like 4-speed attack, deal that much damage, which is a lot. But then Death Volley, if she is targeted or is the last hero alive, she dies and then just spams damage to everyone. And a lot of the times, Sylvanas is the reason you can see a chunk of games end in a draw. If Sylvanas goes down as the last character and then gets to actually one-shot all the other characters that are left for their opponent, then yeah, it's just a draw at that point.
Yeah. Which we almost saw one. Actually, it was effectively a draw, but it was a 2-0 score in our match yesterday, in which case if there's a draw, both teams or players are awarded a win. So a draw was a win in
right.
that sense, right? So kind of a pretty cool dynamic going on there. What other kind of mercs do we have to highlight?
Yeah, let's look at some others.
Are there any?
Hey,
there we go.
Brukan.
Brukan. There we go. So we talked about Brukan a little bit earlier about, you know, one of the few mercs that are being played in a lot of the lineups that have access to 2 abilities on that first round without a cooldown with the Lightning Bolt and the Muddy Footing, allowing to play more of a support role, and then the Chain Lightning. I think Lightning Rod's the equipment that's being played on pretty much every Brukan.
Yeah, one thing just very quickly talking about equipment, it's kind of hilarious. Brukan's Muddy Footing equipment is like, it slows by 4 speed more or something, which makes Muddy Footing slow by 10. Like, when do you need a 10 slow in the game at the moment, right? Maybe for the future, if things get really crazy, but it's just hilarious. It's like, this thing is already slowed. You basically cut its legs off. Let's just make it slower. It's like, geez, 10 speed slower. Ridiculous, but
it needs to be slower.
It's like, but it's not even moving. Make it move backwards then. Even slower. Here we are into this Frost Comp versus Luna on this Nature opening again. And it looks like priority here for Luna is going to be on this Jaina to try and proc this block. And this is actually perfect.
Perfect.
The
Oh, the one health
perfect
block.
ice block.
Oh my god, it feels so good.
Actually a big deal. That's so strong. But Varden is doing the job. Varden, one of the characters that is kind of hilarious and shows just the evolution of Mercenaries, of the meta day by day. Everyone was upset about Varden. Oh, too strong, the slows constantly, way too powerful. And now actually most of the powerful comps don't even run Varden. So there you go. At least the most popular comps anyway. So things do change as time goes on. But the fact that all this is slowed helps negate some of the Malfurion speed, but the problem is, because Malfurion got the Wrath, of course, everything's speed 3, or some of the abilities are speed 3 for the 2 nature characters here, so that is still going to be a bit of a problem, and this Jane is not really going to live to do anything else this game, unfortunately, for Surrender.
Yep. Though we did get a cool moment.
What, the 1 health proc?
Yeah. No, something else was cooler.
What else? Don't say cookie.
No. If it was our English producer, then he probably would have showed cookie, but I don't think it was. If only just to troll me.
Here we are going to see, of course, this Samuro just run away with these trades. Really difficult to try and keep up here because, as you can see, the biggest problem with this matchup, because again, this Frost comp was kind of initially started around the same time you saw Nature kick up, but the Nature didn't necessarily run Samuro at the time, which is the big change. And Nature was running mainly the double blue opening, which this Frost comp is a lot stronger against. But with the Samuro, you can see that the sustain is there from Luna, where everything is relatively healthy. Probably, of course, Malfurion will die very soon, but the damage has already been done, right? Tavish is very healthy, but now if it's Ken Diablo, that's fine. But there has to be a whole turn worth of stomp happening first, because Surrender won't be able to outspeed Orion, and, well, I guess he'll outspeed Rakan, it's frozen, but the Malfurion and even potentially the Samuro with the images wouldn't be able to outspeed it anyway. So it does look like Surrender's going a little bit crazy this time and going for the Diablo and Ragnaros answer instead. Planning on aiming that meteor right in Samuro's face. The problem here, though, is Luna, I think, is going to lock in that whirlwind we were talking about from Samuro. You got to think that the fact that Rag has come in, that Samuro will be heavily targeted here. So I think I'd like to see that that immunity come out. I don't think she did it though. I think she just did the attack for Samuro. Yeah. She wants to try and do max damage to Diablo.
Fully locked in anything yet. But maybe
these turns are always tricky as well when you have one of your characters frozen, because you turn so much less flexible because Brakan's just sat there doing nothing, so you get just one whole less attack. So you've got to work out what's the best thing to do to sort of buy time this turn to then have a full 3 Mercenaries turn next turn.
boom.
Yeah, I love that move. You just dunk on things. It's great.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, though, although I was saying I'd like to see the immunity here from Luna, Luna did ensure that she could kill Diablo, right? And I think at this point in the game, that is a trade-off Luna will be more than happy with. You take my Samuro, I take your Diablo, and then look what Surrender's got left. Like, Ken achieves very little with these teammates of Tavish and Ragnaros, whereas Luna has whatever she wants and still has that Brakan that I believe now has lightning, chain lightning. available. I am 90% sure. So that's a huge deal. Even though Surrender's of course done his job well and placed the 2 red minions either side of Tavish, it just doesn't really matter. Chain Lightning just does a lot of damage to the board anyway.
It hasn't really been ramped though, right? Yeah, there it is. It's available.
Yeah, it's not, but it's 19 that like dances across the board.
Yeah, it's
and
still
also
a lot.
That's of course 19 doubled for every red that's hit with it as well. So even flat Chain Lightning is oftentimes good enough. Yes, it's not going to single-handedly blow up the board like in some circumstances you can sort of create, but just dropping Chain Lightning off the top just seems pretty good to me.
Okay. I'm locked in except for Malfurion here for Luna. I don't even know because oh no. Thinking about switching things up, running out of time though.
Yeah.
Just looks like it's going to be the Wrath on what, Rag on the other side?
Yeah, I think there's some decision points as to what to target and also how to do it, because there was a chance that she could have gone for 5-speed like AoE heal that turn instead.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Diablo and Cookie are the options here. And are we actually going to see Surrender return this? Like, it's looking close, although Cookie will start to deal a lot of damage. I think if Luna, if she can just take down Rag, then she'll be pretty happy overall. And this is, of course, Luna does have the combo available of Endurance Aura and the AoE.
Yep. And Surrender, not that many options, right? Everything's slowed. Was Meteor on cooldown.
Yeah, no explosive trap. Also, I think
No
it's going to be really nice because the Diablo is only on one side now if Luna uses Cookie to actually summon the fish. Because that order just works, right? It can be the Stomp fish, and then the fish gives Diablo 1 extra wave because it's another thing on the other side of the board that's not attacked.
Yep. And then more health, too.
Yep.
With the Soulstone.
Yeah, I think this might just be too
everybody
much.
Look good.
Well, that's the job, right? And that's what I was saying last night. That Cookie just feels like the first like true support character that just provides a team-wide buff all the time and just gets the job done, right? Look at all this stacking damage. Because there's no heal available for this, although I guess like that can work, can't heal. The bleeds are gonna really start stacking up now, and you can see that the health totals are just not good enough. There's going to be a meteor here that can, I guess, kill Diablo, but I think the Cairn Cookie combo, weirdly enough, can win this game for Luna. I'm not sure. It's close, though.
Cairn and Cookie. You'd never think they would be best friends. But they are. Wait, Cairn is going to lore-wise. Was the war chief of the Horde for some time?
I think it was a very short time. He got baited in the duel, didn't he?
Yeah.
Supposed to be an honorable duel, and one of the weapons was poisoned, right? I think that's how Cairn died.
Yeah. And then, Cookie, obviously, the war chief of the Alliance, just prefers to hang out in dead mines, Yeah,
it's one of those rags to riches stories, right?
Yeah.
Cookie's the Cinderella of the WoW universe.
Yep. Just cooking for Edwin, slowly biding their time until one day they become the war chief of the Alliance, which is not even a role that exists.
Or is that what they want you to think?
Okay, now you're onto something. There you go.
There you go, see. Here, though, now we can see that this was just enough. It was close, but the fact that Luna could be able to actually take down the Ragnaros and the Diablo there was a big deal. So it does mean that Surrender is going to take a loss there, and the Team Americas starts to fight back, right? And this isn't going to be a sweep. This is just going to be a potential that them getting a point if the team can actually bring it back and start to beat up on APAC just a little bit.
Yeah, that seemed like a little bit of a mismatch, right? At least as big of a mismatch as you can get right now. For the reasons you mentioned, just that Frost comp just doesn't have a good opening if Guff's not in the nature opening any longer.
Yeah, the Samuro made the difference,
there to kind of tear apart
yeah.
the casters.
Yeah, a double blue opening with Samuro that also has sustain as well is a problem, because generally you're expecting in most Samuro comps that there's a turn 1 kill or close to it on any blue character against Samuro. So it's always going to be rough. And then the fact that, again, because of the sustain, the Varden freeze on death doesn't do too much either, because you're likely to be healthy enough to, and then so on, right? That just slowly starts to stack up. So yeah, not the best matchup overall. Just checking out Varden again. I've seen some players play this comp with the Potion of Ice. So not only is Jaina stacking frost damage with her ability, but then this sort of AoE flurry that you're dealing 6, then suddenly you're dealing 10 naturally to the board, or to the 3 enemy mercenaries, and then Jaina starts stacking frost, then you do 13, then you do 16, and like Varden goes from being an annoyance kind of character to an actual heavy hitting one, whereas Jaina, it's very difficult to try and turn down Ice Block, of course, because we saw then Jaina effectively got popped turn 1, but then just at least got one move off, right? Because that's the fear. If you start turn 1 and one of your characters dies before even being able to activate, that's when you're feeling pretty bad about things.
Yeah, and it was a pretty good move, right? That's what allowed Surrender to at least freeze the Brukan, right? That's the turn in question.
Yeah.
Post Ice Block, and at least buy some time, right? Still lost, but you know,
it's a good try.
Could have lost even harder.
Here, now that we are into this next game, I believe this score should be updated. I'm pretty sure Luna did win that last game, unless I'm going crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to err on the side of you going crazy. Yeah. No, but our producer corrected me, so I can't make you feel crazy more. There we go. The score's corrected. 2-1. I mean, you had a whole spiel about, it's 2-1. Maybe they can get some more points and not be swept. It's not going to be a sweep. Surprised you don't remember.
Yeah, honestly, hanging out with you, Sottle, and the other casters for years has made me doubt myself a lot more these days. So
that makes sense.
Here now, though, the combination of the slows here from Varden, the Doom Charge on the Vol'jin, I believe, means that he's going to be slowed with some of his abilities as well, and means that it is likely that Cairn can deal some damage here with the usual Endurance Aura into Firestomp with Varden for some extra AoE there. So, like I said, the main thing to remember for this one is that this Diablo opening looks weak turn 1, and then looks mega powerful turn 2, because they have the combo so quickly, and it's almost always guaranteed. But you see Luna crossing fingers there, hoping that she can win what I believe is a speed tie between the 3 speed moves, I think.
All right, let's see. Yep, there it is. The order first. Rip! There goes the board. Oh my goodness. That's a big yikes.
Yeah, I think Vol'jin Hang on, let me think. 2, 2. Wait, was there a speed tie on offer there? I need to triple check that at some point. I'm not sure if there was a speed tie. I'm pretty sure there would have been, and I think it might have been Vol'jin at that point, or maybe.
Her reaction
oh,
wouldn't
sorry.
make sense unless there was.
Yeah, no, it was Natalie, I think, right, with the shadow beam. Goes from 1 to 3 with the slow, so I think that's right. Yeah. But anyway, Luna lost the tie there, which obviously dealt a ton of damage, and this is what I was talking about. Helps that Surrender got the play out, of course, but look how strong that response was. It was so sick that just being able to just wipe those minions off the board that easily means that suddenly Surrender feels very far ahead in this game. Although Luna will have a strong response now, being able to go off with that Ken combo herself, it doesn't feel like it's going to do as much. Like, yes, Surrender is almost certainly going to lose Diablo this turn, but then Surrender could just drop down Rag if he really wants, and then just try and, like, you know, drop a Meteor on Luna's Diablo as well to respond. So, really nice turn there from Surrender, but it's all on Luna now to try and recover.
Yep, got the combo herself this time around though. But being 2 mercs behind and only having access to it, you know, not once, but has to make the best use out of it, right? And when you're behind, that can be a little bit difficult, but just gonna go for it. Try and get some parity here.
Yeah, and with that Endurance Aura as well, although Natalie is often one of the characters that gets left to do whatever, because once Vol'jin's off the board, she's just not that good. With the speed buff there, that extra layer of AoE damage coming down is really nice and has really reduced down the Ken and the Varden for Surrender. I am interested now to see what's going to go on with this response, because now the Rag is down for Luna, I believe, right? So that means that this Varden dying won't freeze a target, which is a huge deal, right? I think if this was anything but Rag, the plan could be get Jaina out to start stacking frost damage. The Varden dies, freezes something, which then makes the kill or the ice block proc on Jaina on the following turn way less likely, and then, you know, suddenly Jaina's pumping out tons of damage to be able to start killing off these red minions. But it's looking like it might be tough. Still feeling very close here. It is going to be Ragnaros for Surrender again. Just needs to answer the Diablo. Of course, Surrender's Diablo's already gone. This also means that the Ragnaros from Luna isn't going to have any super effective targets right now, unless, of course, the Diablo from Luna gets that weakness like Sigil off.
And then what's the last mark on the bench for Surrender?
It's Jaina
the
and...
Jaina, yeah.
Yeah.
There's just one more, right? It's just a Jaina.
Yeah, it's for Surrender. It's Jaina Samuro, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. No, you're right. Sorry. Been so used to Samuro being in the opening.
Oh wait, sorry, no, it's not. No. It's Tavish. It's Tavish. It's not Samuro. It's good old Tavish, because it was the Ken Diablo opening with Varden, and then it's the Jaina Rag Tavish backline. Apologies,
No Samuro in this comp, because you can't run Samuro in every comp you play, because of the rules.
Because them's the rules.
Those pesky rules.
Okay, now the fact that this Varden's still alive, although it's not like it's achieving too much, just like sort of dribbling out some damage, the slows do make an impact, especially when there's a Diablo on the other side of the board, there's a Cairn on the other side of the board, like even a Ragnaros, right? Like Ragnaros is a very powerful but very slow character. With Varden being played against it as well, it's going to be even slower, and most importantly, it makes Surrender's Ragnaros faster than Luna's. So just in general, the Varden's still doing work, even though freezes aren't really going to go down right now.
The Cairn reincarnation procced up on the side of Surrender, still available for Luna. Looks like Surrender is debating on something here. Actually, looks like both players are not making actions. Just looking around.
Yeah, it's something that, you know, I mean, hopefully it's not any kind of disconnect issue, but it's something that I have to force myself to do when I'm playing. I'm very much, and I'm just an idiot basically. I'm take my turns way too quickly, and the amount of times I've clicked ready and then gone, oh wait a minute, what if they do this, or what if I do that, and then change my mind on what the play should have been. But it's too late because once you press ready, you're done. So I don't mind, and I expect to see a lot of players doing this because it's not like it's an APM heavy mode. So it's not like, oh, you've got to lock everything and get the turn started quickly. It's no, you can sit and just think about any outcomes that might happen and if it should change any of your plays. Yeah, I'm going to see the Meteor there from Luna drop a good chunk of damage. But again, that's not going to be enough, and the game just slipped away there. Surrender's going to take it, and in doing so, take the series. So another win for Team APAC. And you can see there that even though, you know, Luna did a good job, I think the overall plan was correct. Surrender was just way too far ahead. Again, that Diablo Cairn opening isn't something that you run into that often, but it is strong as long as you can tank that first turn. But because those characters are Cairn, Diablo, and Varden, they are pretty tanky, right? There's not a lot of like double red opens to try and kill the Diablo. There's not like the double blue openings. Well, if they kill Cairn, even though it's a very tanky minion, the reincarnates there. So you almost, well, you can't kill Cairn completely in one opening turn of a game. So just that plan overall is very, very strong indeed. And then that second wave of just going, okay, the speed buff into the stomp is just absolutely huge. Just obliterated, I think, too much of Luna's comp in the like turn 2, and it's very difficult to recover from that point.
Yeah, almost impossible. And Raven, we're back to the hero spotlights here. Immediately, Cairn Bloodhoof. Didn't we look at Cairn already? No, we didn't look at Cairn already.
Yeah, basically with Cairn, just to give you a quick update, just the easy update, probably one of the best singular mercenaries in the meta, mainly because, yes, he combos very well with Diablo, but he's also just a good utility mercenary, right? With this speed control, Earth Stomp's just a good thing. And that the big one is the reincarnation, even though it recently... it's weird to say it took a nerf. I think it was more of a fix than a nerf, but by fixing it, it made the character worse, therefore it is a nerf, if that makes sense. Kind of strange. But yeah, basically the reincarnate, if the Cairn dies on any given turn before it is acted and then reincarnates, it will not use its ability, whereas previous to that recent patch, it would. And Cairn was really broken right then. But this just shows another one of those mercenaries where really you are just playing with that reincarnation, even though it's had a bit of a nerf, because as I mentioned earlier about the endurance aura, like, you don't need 3 extra speed faster, right? It's already fast enough. So yeah, Cairn, definitely one of those characters, if you're new to the game, you want to look at getting hold of and leveling if you can.
Yeah, obviously, you know, if you've been watching over the past couple days, it's in as many comps as it can be fit in, which is a ton of them. Nearly all of them.
Pretty much all of them.
It's all of them. Yeah, it's all of them that it can fit in. Obviously, there's a restriction. The rules are. We'll go over the rules later because we still got plenty more mercenaries action to come. But we are going to go to a break for the time being. When we come back, we're going to have the second best of 5 with Americas versus APAC in the Mercenaries portion of our broadcast today for the Hearthstone Global Invitational. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.